Okay, this week we're going to talk about how to break down complex shapes, such as the still life in the classroom, into basic shapes so that it is easier to quickly draw and look at proportion and placement on your page so that your composition looks correct. You're not drawing bottles too big or something out of shape or form. So let's talk about this still life right here. I'm going to grab a marker and I'm going to walk you through the process of breaking things down into basic shapes. I'm just going to use a red Expo marker here. But when I'm drawing, I try to look at how things might be outlined or how they might be broken down into those really simple shapes that you've learned in elementary school, your circle, your square, your triangle, or your rectangles. Something that's going to give you a really good starting off point, or even if it's an organic shape like an egg or a tree shape, something that gives you a point to just build that exoskeleton before adding all the detail. It's best when you do a full drawing that you map everything out first and where it's going to go before you add your details in. If you get really detailed on one object and then get halfway through your project and realize that that one needs to be altered, like you drew it too big or you drew it too wide, it really is not very fun to have to go back or start over. So we're trying to avoid that situation by looking at something first and getting it done right the first time. So in this little still life that I have here, I want to break everything down into really basic little shapes, and it might be even broken down into multiple in a single shape, and I'll show you where. But let's start with the flower that's right in front. The center of this flower is clearly a circle. So we're just going to outline the circle, and maybe I'm going to switch my color here so that it's a little easier to see. So I'm going to go to a Sharpie here. But we're going to draw a circle. And then the outer circle, instead of getting caught up on all the petals right now, when I'm drawing something organic or something similar to a flower, I like to kind of create an entire outline to what shape I need to fill. So if I were to draw that, I can even look at kind of a circle for the outline of the petals. Once I get that put onto paper, I can go back and add the details of the petals and what they look like. Going next, and I like to go front to back. Going next, I'm going to look at this tin cup. And I see a rectangle, or if you want to go into a form, you see a cylindrical shape. But I'm going to start with a rectangle just to get the shape right. And then the handle gives me a little bit of a triangle vibe hanging off the side. Although there is that little part that goes straight up and down, I'm not going to worry about that until I map it out on the final picture. I have this jar right here. Same concept. I'm going to do a rectangle. And then I'm going to add a second rectangle on top to account for that little lip and opening on the very top. And then moving back, I'll do one more shape. Wine bottles or any kind of these tall, skinny bottles, I really like to show drawing because these are made up of multiple shapes as well. Usually depending on the shape of the bottle, it could be triangle or a circle, kind of where the neck starts to meet the bottle, or the body of the bottle. And then I see a skinny rectangle, and then back here I don't see it, but it would be a larger rectangle. So breaking it down into those simple shapes first are really going to help you map out what you need to do, so that when you get to your paper, I'm using a 6B pencil right now. Typically you're just going to use a 2B or an HB pencil, which are the yellow drawing pencils, just a yellow wooden pencil in class. For dark shading projects, we will get into using ebony pencils, which I will provide for you. And if you're an at-home learner, we will have an opportunity for you to pick those up so that you can have those and work with us even if you're not here. So you can see what I'm doing is really looking at how those shapes maybe interact or touch each other. And I'm just really simply mapping out where things go on my still life first. And I'll do the same thing back here. I'm just gonna finish out my drawing. I'm gonna give that one kind of an egg shape. And my paper is not quite as wide as the picture, so I'm not going to try to force all of this in here if it's not going to fit. Like my pine cone over here would actually come off the page. My baseball might come off the page as well. So as you see, I really kind of started to build everything in here, and from this point, it's going to be easier for me to adjust my shapes or my sizes. So if my cup isn't wide enough, it's going to be easier for me to make that adjustment now while it's still in this really basic form before I get into the next step where we really look at how to adjust things and turn them into the forms that we see in our still life. If you have questions, let me know. This takes quite a bit of playing around and practice, and it's not something that you've been accustomed to doing forever. You're really used to looking at something and drawing it right away as you see it. I think this, if you can get into a routine of doing this, it's going to help you create that basic initial drawing of your final much quicker, or map out even your thumbnails in your brainstorms or your proposals. By doing this first and figuring it out right away, you can decide kind of your composition and your layout.